Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are shifting our focus a little. We're moving away from the usual classroom management techniques, all the external stuff.
Mm,
Instead, we're diving deep into the educator's internal landscape, the mindset, the emotions, really the core integrity that drives high-quality teaching.
right, because that's where the real work happens.
Exactly. We often talk about excellent teaching as, a set of behaviors you can see or measure.
Things you can put on a checklist.
Yes. But our sources today, specifically the doctoral research of a Dr. Jeff Taylor, they suggest teaching is really an internal emotional journey.
A journey, that's a good way to put it.
And so our deep dive is into a framework that, well, it quite literally treats this professional journey like a map, a sort of hidden cartography of how a teacher can survive and even thrive.
That's right. Our mission here is to unpack that framework. It's based on his 2023 study of some highly experienced humanities and social science teachers, HOS teachers. And we're not just looking at what makes their behavior effective. We're trying to analyze the internal mechanics, how their behavior, their emotions, and their deep-seated mindset all interact.
To find out what you really need to hit that peak performance state, that idea of flow.
Precisely. Because the core idea here is that positive emotions aren't just a nice side effect of good teaching. They are absolutely central to it.
So let's start with that emotional terrain of the classroom. Just thinking about it sounds exhausting, even before the bell rings.
Yes, it absolutely is. The research shows that every single time a teacher walks into a room, they have to navigate 3 distinct emotional states, all at once.
3? Okay, so what are they?
First, their own internal state. How are they feeling? Second, the collective mood of the class as a whole.
A vibe of the room.
Vibe of the room. And third, the individual emotional states of every single student in that room. It's a triple threat of emotional data they're constantly processing.
That makes sense from the traditional view, right? That the teacher is the emotional architect and their mood kind of sets the tone for everyone else. But wait, if the teacher is supposed to be in control, how can things like, bad student behavior or a lack of support from the administration, how can that actually damage their long-term mindset?
And that is the absolute critical pivot in this research. The teacher tries to set the tone, of course, but what this work shows is that emotions are also translating external classroom events back into a persistent mindset for the teacher.
Ah, so it's a two-way street. The external stuff gets inside.
It's completely bidirectional. If there's chaos in the classroom or maybe leadership keep changing the rules.
Shifting the goalposts.
Exactly. That frustration, that instability, it translates inward. And it can actually drain the teacher's capacity for professionalism over time. It becomes this self-perpetuating loop.
That makes so much sense. That is the road to burnout right there.
It is.
So to help manage this turbulent inner life, the research mentions a really surprising visual tool. Dr. Taylor talks about this world of experience visual.
Yes, from a book called The Atlas of Experience. It was made by 2 Dutch graphic designers back in 1997, Louise Van Swy and Jean Claire.
And it resonated with him because it blended geography mapping with psychology.
And what's really fascinating is that one of the authors, Louise Van Swy, she actually went on to become a Gestalt therapist and a coach.
Wow. So that connection is completely explicit. It's a fusion of cartography and emotional literacy.
It is. The whole map metaphor, it encourages this deep introspection. It asks you, where have I come from? Where am I right now emotionally? And where am I going? It frames the whole thing as an exploration.
Okay, so let's walk through the model that came out of this, the diagram of teacher practice. It shows how those external things get inside and affect the teacher's world.
Right. So the cycle starts on the outside with what are called external influences.
Yeah.
So that's the context, the leadership, school policies, all pushing on the teacher.
Okay, so that pressure comes in and it hits the first internal layer, teacher behavior. The diagram shows this as like interlocking gears, cogs.
And that behavior, your actions, flows into the next stage, which is teacher emotions, represented by, happy and sad faces.
And those emotions then influence the deepest layer, the teacher mindset, which is shown as the brain.
But here's the key, right? The arrows go both ways.
That's the part that transforms it. It's a feedback system. Your emotions influence how you act, of course, but when you consciously choose an optimal behavior, that action feeds back. It can build positive emotions and a more resilient mindset.
So high-quality behavior can actually manufacture a better emotional state. You can act your way into a better feeling.
You can. It allows the teacher to reverse the negative pressure from the outside.
Okay, so that brings us to the core of the research. Dr. Taylor interviews and observes 4 exceptional Haas teachers to figure out the prerequisites for reaching that peak state. And he broke those prerequisites down into those 3 layers we just talked about: behavior, emotion, and mindset.
Yeah.
So, starting with optimal teacher behavior, the summary is that they're always seeking to thicken and enrich their practice.
So what does that actually look like? The first prerequisite is drawing on a seemingly inexhaustible font of knowledge.
Right. And it's not just subject matter. It's knowledge about teaching in general and about their specific classroom practice. It's so deeply integrated that it's just there.
Which would free them up from constantly having to search for answers.
Yes, they can focus on the students, on the relationships, and that leads right into the second prerequisite. Their practice shows automaticity, improvisation. It looks effortless.
They're tireless.
They seem tireless. Because the technical side of teaching, like routines and transitions, it's become unconscious. All their mental bandwidth is freed up to handle that emotional complexity we mentioned.
And the third behavioral point is that they are constantly redesigning and reauthoring the curriculum to fit their students.
They're curriculum designers in motion. They completely reject a one-size-fits-all approach. For them, the curriculum is a living document, tailored to the actual people in the room.
Which shows a deep integrity. They're serving the student, not just the syllabus.
Right.
So if that's the behavior, then the power source has to be emotion. What did Taylor find was the optimal emotional state? They call it peak teacher emotion, states of flow.
And flow is described as these peak experiences, where the teacher is feeding off their core purpose, their personal attributes, right in the middle of teaching. It's when the job stops feeling like work.
It's alignment.
Total alignment. And the prerequisites for this are very internal. First, a strong sense of agency and ownership over what they're teaching.
You can't get into flow if you feel like you're just delivering someone else's script.
No, you have to feel like an owner, not just a delivery person. Second, they need a sense of being emotionally competent, of being on top of the classroom's demands.
So they can handle that triple threat we talked about.
Yeah.
They're calibrated.
They're calibrated. And finally, the last prerequisite for flow is the ability to create confident, trusting connections, a safe atmosphere.
So flow isn't a solo experience, it's relational.
Absolutely. The research found that when the teacher is in flow, it actually promotes student perspective taking and self-regulated learning. It creates a space for the students to find their own flow.
Which brings us to the deepest layer, authentic teacher mindset. The finding here seems to be that peak performance happens when the teacher's personal and professional selves align. There's no mask.
And that visibility is key. When the teacher brings their whole self, it gives students permission to bring their whole selves to learning too. Their passions, their vulnerabilities, all of it.
And the prerequisites for this mindset are, well, they're challenging. First is a whole person approach that focuses on developing human capabilities, not just memorizing facts.
Second, they have a relational approach that connects with students as they are.
Not as the teacher wishes they would be.
Exactly. That requires a lot of acceptance. And the third, maybe the most demanding, is an exploratory, experimental, risk-taking, and courageous approach with all students.
You'd need a lot of confidence to take those kinds of risks.
You would. And that strong sense of identity and integrity, it's not automatic. It's built up over a long time through deep reflective practice.
And that alignment gets tested in what Dr. Taylor calls the clutch moments. This is where he introduces this amazing concept, core, reflection, and action.
This is the critical moment. Instead of just reacting in that tired, conditioned way, the teacher, in a moment of pressure, they stop, they pause, they take a breath and dig deep before they respond.
The research says this is synonymous with flow because it forces the teacher's deepest personal attributes, their values, their integrity outwards from their core for everyone to see.
All time stops, is how he puts it. Revealing who they truly are becomes the most important thing in that moment.
And doing that self-revelation, is key to sustainability. If you constantly react in a way that betrays your values, the job will just eat you alive.
It will. The sources really emphasize that teachers have to find quiet time to reflect on this stuff. It's the only way to shield themselves from that constant emotional erosion.
You can just feel the impact of this in the words of a student that's quoted. A year 12 student telling teachers that out of all the choices you could have made, you decided to become a teacher, and that is to be celebrated. And then told them to be proud and positive about that and to have fun with it.
That student gets it. That positive, fun, unique tone is a teacher's most valuable asset. And to sustain it, you have to protect it from all the negative external stuff.
So what's the key to protecting it, according to the research?
Regarding their unique orientation, their core values, their purpose, their mission as sacred.
Sacred, that's a strong word.
It is. But that core set of attributes isn't just a nice list of virtues. It's the non-negotiable ingredient for emotional regulation and for sustaining inspiration over an entire career. When your work feels sacred, you protect it.
So we started this deep dive with a map, and we've kind of ended up at a sanctuary. We mapped the path by understanding that feedback loop between behavior, emotion, and mindset. The best teachers aren't just experts in their subject, they're experts in their self.
And that, I think, is the final provocative thought we can leave you with. Maximal professional activation, that true flow state, it only happens when your professional identity aligns perfectly with your deepest personal attributes. So if your work requires you to reveal who you truly are in those moments of pressure and to treat that core orientation as sacred, we ask you, what are the specific attributes of your own sacred orientation that you need to protect, to thicken, and to share?
Something powerful to reflect on until our next deep dive.